Okay, so I'm looking at this review and I need to try to figure out which of these graphs matches what's here. So the first thing I'm going to do is check the first line. I'm looking for it to start at 2 and to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. Okay, so that graph looks like it matches the first line. Same thing, I'm looking for it to start at 2. I can already tell this is going to be wrong because this line does not move downwards. So this is not a possibility. Right here, I look at 2. I'm looking for this to move downwards. This is also not a possibility. It was also not a possibility because it was dotted or dashed lines instead of a solid line. So that one was pretty easy. You didn't really have to do a whole lot, just checked that first line. Number 2 is a little harder because now we have to go through, and before we can graph, we need to solve for y. So if I get the first one and I rewrite it, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. This cancels. I get negative y is equal to negative x minus 1. Okay, and some of you might be just like me and be in the habit of writing that equal sign. It's actually a less than sign. Make sure that sign does not change. We're going to divide by negative 1. We're going to divide by negative 1. I get y is less than x plus 1. Now, I want to note to you here that we changed all of our signs. We divided by a negative, so we changed the signs. Okay, which means that this buddy right here should have changed to a greater than. So I'm going to check that first line. Do I have a line that starts at 1? Yes. Does it go up 1 over 1? Yes. Okay, so this line checks. Do I have a line that starts at 1? Yes. Does it go up 1 over 1? Yes, this line checks. Do I have a line that starts at 1? No. Definitely not this guy. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and check shading. So I'm looking for a greater than. And if I'm looking for y is greater than, that means I'm shading above that line. And this is the line that we were looking at here, and this is the line we were looking at here. If I shaded above that line, I would shade this entire side, which means that this one's definitely not it because it doesn't have any piece shaded that was shaded there. I shade here, and this one is definitely it. It's going to be this little shade piece that matches up. So B will be my answer. You should not have these two problems on your review sheet. Right here it says rewrite the equation in y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to subtract 5x, I'm going to subtract 5x. When I do that, I get 3y equals negative 5x plus 15. I'm going to divide by 3 to get the y by itself. When I do that, I divide to each little piece. Y equals negative 5 over 3x plus 5. It's okay that there's a fraction there. That's totally fine. It's allowed. Again, I'm trying to solve for y because I want it in y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to subtract the x over, subtract the x over. I get negative 2y equals negative x plus 8. I divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. Here you need to note that you change all the signs because you divide by a negative. This one's less complex because changing the sign of an equal sign is literally just still an equal sign. I have just a y. I have positive 1 x over 2 because this cancels out to make a positive. And lots of us like to write this x down to the side so that it looks like it's in y equals mx plus b form. This becomes a negative, so I get negative 4. That's my final answer. Here I have to graph each inequality. I start at negative 1. I move up 2 over 1 all the way through my graph, and I'm going to end up with a straight line. My bad. My last one was off. Okay. It is important that you put arrows on your lines. It is important that we check to make sure this is actually supposed to be a solid line, and it is because of that equal sign. And now we're still not done. We still need to shade. So we're looking to shade above, and the reason why is because this is a y is greater. So greater means shade above. Shady, 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 shade. Moving over here. This one's a little harder. It's not in y equals mx plus b form. I can't possibly put it in y equals mx plus b form because there's no y. If there is no y, then I am resorting to a vux. A vux means that it's an x equals, it has an undefined slope, and it is vertical. So, if I put my dot on 5, it'll be a closed dot because there is an equal sign, which means that this makes a solid line. It is a solid vertical line because it is a vux. I put my arrows on it, and it's an x is greater. There's no way for me to shade upwards here. It's not possible. But if I'm talking about an x being greater, I'm talking about moving up on the x-axis, which is really moving to the right. What's nice about this is it points the direction we shade. Okay. Write an inequality that describes the graph below. So if I look right here, I start at 4. So I'm looking for a y equals mx plus b. I move down 1, 2, 3. Sorry, lied. This is going by 2s. I move down 2, 4, and then a little bit, 5, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So I move down 5 over 4. So this is going to be negative 5 over 4x. You can leave it like that in a fraction. Okay. I want you to check this out because this is not an equal sign. I wrote an equal sign. It's not an equal sign because this is an inequality. We know because it's shaded. We also know because it's dashed. Since it's dashed, it does not get an equal sign at all. No equal. It is dashed or dotted, your choice. This shade's above the line, you can tell because I drew that upwards arrow, so I get a greater than sign. Down here, My line starts right here, which is at -1. I want it in y equals mx plus b form. I move down 1 over 2. So I get a -1/2 slope. Put the x in. I take the equal sign out. This is not equal to because it's dashed or dotted. I make my sign a less than sign because it colors down below. Okay, so I've gone through the first page. I've gone through page 2. I'll go do page 3 in a different video.